As you may be aware, Rubrik has been enabling organizations to perform anomaly detection and sensitive data discovery on a number of on-premises workloads. These capabilities are crucial in the response to a cyber attack. Knowing the exact scope of the attack, like what files and folders have been affected, along with whether or not those files and folders contain data that's sensitive in nature, is crucial in both proactively preparing for an attack and responding to and remediating the attack. We're super excited to extend support for these crucial security services to now include Azure VM workloads. Attacks on Azure VMs are evolving, and brand new threats are being discovered daily. And just because it's in the cloud doesn't mean it's immune from the vast variety of threats out there. Today, I want to give you a peek into just how Rubrik Security Cloud is helping organizations protect, mitigate, and respond to attacks within their Azure environment, using our anomaly detection and sensitive data monitoring and classification services. So let's dive in. We'll start here on our main Rubrik Security Cloud dashboard, where we get an at-a-glance overview of how our environment is performing. We can see just where our data is located, broken down by cloud, SaaS, and traditional data center workloads. We also get a quick peek into what anomalies have been detected by our anomaly detection service, along with if any sensitive data has been discovered within those protected workloads. Anomaly detection uses a machine learning model to determine not only file modifications, additions, and deletions, but also scans for entropy and encryption. And now this is available to our Azure VM workloads. So let's head into our anomaly detection service and take a peek. As we enter anomaly detection, we can see right away that we have some anomalies that have been identified. We can also see information on how our ransomware investigation pipeline is performing, as well as a nice time series overview of just when any of these anomalies have occurred. Drilling into our investigations, we can see that indeed one of our Azure VMs, this KJ-Win VM, has been identified as an anomaly. We can see that a number of files within the VM have been added, modified, and deleted, and ultimately, a number of files have been marked as suspicious. On top of this, anomaly detection has also predicted the type of ransomware within the Azure VM. In this case, we're looking at the Lockbit flavor of ransomware. Now, we can drill into this VM and browse through the file system, and as we navigate to this F file shares directory, we can see that this is where most of the suspicious files have been detected, with one file, restoremyfiles.txt, being identified as an actual ransomware note. Now, in less than a minute, we have performed one of the most complex processes that needs to take place after a ransomware attack. We've identified the blast radius of the attack. At this point, we could go ahead and execute a recovery of either the full entire Azure VM or surgically recover just those files and folders that have been affected. But before we get into recovery, often there are more questions that organizations want answers to, such as, do any of these exploited files and folders contain sensitive data? What classification of data did they contain? And has any of our customer data been exploited? Thankfully, Rubrik has the answers to these questions. Let's take this legal department folder here, for instance. For sure, there must have been some sensitive data within that folder. We can easily find this out by selecting View in Data Discovery. This brings us to our Sensitive Data Monitoring and Classification service. Here, we can see that a number of files within the Legal Department folder did indeed contain sensitive information. We can see that we have 48 total sensitive hits, with the majority of them being flagged as US PII. We can also see the actual individual file names hosting this sensitive data. In this case, it looks as if an Excel spreadsheet containing some personal identifiable information exists on this workload. By pointing out sensitive data on workloads directly after the backups have been completed, customers can take valuable proactive steps to secure their workloads, mitigating the impact of any attacks should they occur, ensuring that sensitive data only exists on the desired and specified Azure VM workloads. And it's not just personally identifiable information that we scan for. As you can see, we have over 50 pre-built analyzers that scan for anything from financial information to credit card data to connection string information within our applications. And customers can easily add custom analyzers by defining either regular expressions or dictionary items. So the possibilities are essentially endless. You simply create a policy containing the analyzers you wish to scan for, assign that policy to a workload, and Rubrik will automatically scan each snapshot as they're taken, reporting and alerting on any sensitive information that's found. Again, another complex but super important post-ransomware attack process completed within a matter of minutes using Rubrik Security Cloud. With our blast radius determined and our sensitive data identified, we can now move into the recovery phase. Heading back to our anomaly detection screen, we can see we have a couple of different options in terms of recovery. First, let's take a look at file level recovery. We can simply select our files and folders that we wish to restore and click Recover. This gives us the option to surgically recover individual files and folders, either for production purposes or often to an isolated environment for security teams to perform further triage against. In terms of Azure, we have a couple of different options. We can recover these files and folders to an existing storage account within our environment, or we can create a new storage account within Azure and recover there, all directly from within the Rubrik Security Cloud instance. In terms of recovering the entire Azure VM, well, we have that option as well. Selecting Recover Full Snapshot begins that process. First, we get a nice little overview of all the anomalies that have been found within a given time frame. To map these anomalies to individual backups, let's go ahead and select to change our selected snapshot. Now we get a list of all our backups within that selected time frame, and as we can see, we can easily pinpoint which point-in-time backups contain identified anomalies. This makes it very easy for us to select a non-anomalous snapshot, or essentially a clean restore point. Clicking Next presents us with our restore options. Selecting the restore option allows us to overwrite or essentially rewind our production Azure VM to the specified point in time. And as we walk through the wizard, you can see we get options to restore the tags associated with that VM and control the power state of that VM, or even select to exclude or include individual disks belonging to that Azure virtual machine. The key is the restore option will overwrite that production Azure VM. Now, our export option acts a bit differently. Rather than touching our production Azure VM, export will create an entirely new Azure VM based off the data within the backup. By creating a new VM, you can see we get a number of additional options. We can select to export this VM to an entirely different subscription or region if we wish. We can also define what VNet and subnet we would like to restore this VM into. This is extremely important for those organizations who wish to restore their compromised workloads into an isolated environment for further triage by their security teams before they go ahead and promote that workload to production. We can also choose to change the size of the restored VM, so if we wanted to, we could remove or add resources to the VM during the restoration as well. And of course, just like the restore options, export allows us to also exclude or include individual VM disks. This all looks good to me, so let's go ahead and issue the restore. So our restore event is kicked off, and if we take a look at the events tab of that VM, we can track the progress of the export as it happens, as it copies the data from Rubrik Cloud Vault into the specified region and ultimately creates the new virtual machine. Now, through the magic of video, we could see that the restore option has been completed, all in all taking roughly 10 minutes. Heading into Azure, we can see our newly exported VM all fired up and ready to go. Backup and recovery is indeed important, but the value add of Rubrik really lies within these data observability features that sit between the two processes. We've long offered these data observability features to our customers running those on-premises workloads such as physical hosts and virtualized environments. And we're super excited to extend this data security as a service to scan our M365 and Azure subscriptions. Remember, recovering from ransomware needs more than just a simple backup and recovery platform. You need to understand exactly what needs to be recovered, along with if any sensitive information has been affected. And you need to be able to do it efficiently and recover your environments, be it entire VMs or individual files and folders. Rubrik Security Cloud checks all those boxes and provides a simple and efficient way to get your organization back up and running.